Syria asserts that the meeting of the enemies of the Syrian people in Paris and the statements that came out of it are mere illusions. Lavrov and Kerry agree on solving the crisis in Syria politically and holding Geneva conference sometime. Syrian army units control new areas in Aleppo countryside and eliminate dozens of terrorists in several other areas. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab television in Damascus. President Bashar al-Assad participated yesterday in a religious ceremony held by the Ministry of Endowments, marking the birthday of Prophet Mohammad at the al-Hamad Mosque in Damascus. The President performed al-Isha prayer led by Imam Abdel Fattah al-Bizm, the Mufti of Damascus. Minister of Endowments, Muhammad Abdel Sattar al-Sayyid, talked about the noble meanings of this occasion, referring to the Prophet's life, which was full of mercy, tolerance, and a human fraternity. He added that Prophet Muhammad has given the woman her rights, calling for justice, equality, and preventing bloodshed, affirming that those who forced people to leave their homes and those who killed, blew up explosives, and destroyed the electricity and water networks have reaped their evil acts and became fighting each other's, saying that the Syrian people are innocent of what they have claimed or pretended. All citizens had seen their crimes and their assassination of the scholars, as well as abducting the clergymen. Syria stressed that it is not surprised about what's happening in Paris and the Paris meeting held by the enemies of the Syrian people, emphasizing that the results they have come out with are mere illusions by some people who are far away from the political common sense. A source in the Foreign and Expatriates Ministry said that we consider any statement or declaration before Geneva II conference as insubstantial and as a desperate attempt coming after the defeat of the armed terrorist groups on the ground. The Syrian Arab Republic does not pay any attention to those who talk or behave in behalf of the Syrian people outside Syria, whether they were Arabs or foreigners. The Syrian people are the only ones who are responsible for determining their future and for choosing their leadership and the form of state they want. Anything other than that is mere nonsense, and the Syrians no longer waste their time listening to it. The source mentioned that Syria stressed once more that it agreed on attending Geneva II conference without preconditions because it announced frequently that the political dialogue is the only solution. Preparations continue to hold Geneva II conference on Syria.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov asserted that his talks with his U.S. counterpart on preparations to Geneva II conference were very constructive and focused on the importance of holding Geneva II on its scheduled time, as well as on fighting terrorism in Syria and on pursuing Syrian dialogue to determine the future of the Syrian people. Lavrov also said that the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, as well as al-Qaeda, are all terrorist organizations and their behavior is totally rejected, as they further complicate the situation and hinder delivering humanitarian assistance to those who need them from the Syrian people. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry asserted that he and his Russian counterpart both agree that the solution to the crisis in Syria is political and not military, asserting that they exert every possible effort to bring all parties concerned to Geneva II conference. He pointed out that it is everybody's responsibility to put in place a ceasefire before Geneva. Kerry underlined the importance of opening humanitarian passages for the civilians in Syria. For his part, the international envoy to Syria, Lakhdar Brahimi, underlined the importance of Iran's participation in Geneva too.
Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad has asserted that the only solution for the crisis in Syria is a political one. In a press conference held in Beirut airport, Zarif said that the best way that could lead to reaching the sought solution was through giving the Syrian people the chance to freely and transparently express their opinions through ballot boxes. He further voiced Iran's readiness to take part in the international conference in Syria if invited, but with no preconditions. In Damascus countryside, 350 wanted individuals who got involved in recent events in the country turned themselves yesterday in Madaya town. The wanted individuals turned themselves in to authorities and will have their papers settled. Meanwhile, 25% who also were involved in the events but did not commit murders had their files settled and were released in Homs after they handed over themselves to the authorities and pledged not to do any act that would affect the security of the homeland. Units of the armed forces of the Syrian army have targeted gatherings of terrorists in Tel al-Zarzour, Tel al-Ghali, the vicinity of the central prison, Al-Ta'ana, Bayanoun, Al-Marji, Al-Salihin, Rihlitan, Anadan, Ma'arat al-Artiq, Babis, Karm al-Tarab, and the industrial city, killing and wounding a big number of them. Moreover, units of the Syrian army destroyed a number of vehicles with all weapons and ammunition aboard in the vicinity of Rasm al-Aboud airport. A military source said that an infiltration attempt by terrorists who took the route of Huzaifa Mosque and radio station in Aleppo province was thwarted, adding that many of these terrorists were killed and others wounded. Moving to Idleb in Damascus countryside, where units of the Syrian armed forces have seized hideouts of armed terrorist groups with big quantities of grenades and explosive devices inside, in addition to raw materials for making explosive devices. In Damascus, Governor Bishr Sabban toured Berze, neighborhood that had suffered from terrorism, and observed the basic services given by the governorate to the citizens in cooperation with the National Defense Forces. In Homs, 19 people were killed and many others injured as a result of terrorist attacks by mortar shells fired on Al-Ghouta and Karm al-Shami in Homs city. An official source said that the terrorists have fired mortar shells from Talbisa town, targeting the residents of Al-Ghouta quarter, killing 13 people and injuring 18 others. The source added that 6 civilians died and others were wounded by mortar shells that targeted the vicinity of Al-Khair Mosque in Karm al-Shami quarter in Homs city. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest in the world of business and market with Rani.